chose to stay with me. Oh, wow, Chelsea and I are finally gonna connect. You think I'm dumb, but I'm not. I have a life that I love. It's gonna take a while for us to figure this out.
Exactly 1 hour, starting right now on Cordkillers!
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Brian Brushwood, but most importantly, I got to figure out what it is we're going to figure out in the next 40 minutes, 50, 60. I don't know. How long do we have, Bryce?
Well, this show's about an hour. Yeah, this show's about an hour.
What's the thing that we heard that we have to figure out with the girl who thought she could connect, but then it's going to take him some time to figure this out? Like, I don't know. It sounded like a sitcom from the 90s. What was that?
It certainly looked like it. That is an upcoming series from Netflix called Pretty Smart. When egghead Chelsea moves in with her seemingly vapid sister Claire and roommates in Los Angeles, tensions and self-discovery abound in this multi-camera sitcom with a laugh track and everything. That's coming to Netflix October 8th. I thought this looks cute. I don't know. I liked what they did with One Day at a Time. So I don't know. I certainly think that I've got some space.
This is Netflix saying, all right, all you MFers out there saying, why doesn't anybody do a typical old sitcom with a laugh track anymore? Well, here you go.
Yeah, we got one. That's October 8th.
Yeah, I guess. I guess we'll give it a try, right?
I mean, I'm not sure how many people were saying that, but this seems to be a response to someone saying that. That's all I can figure, right?
And it makes me wonder, like there are these 3-camera laugh track, everything on reels shows that I do find comfort food, but it's been a long time since I've given one a try.
And if anybody's got the breadth and cash to do it, I guess it's Netflix to say like, well, people really like Friends still and Seinfeld and such, maybe let's throw them a new one because it's true. Nobody makes that kind of show right now. I think that's kind of interesting. And
Netflix has said that they want to be something for everybody. So there are
like literally
everybody. So there's some amount of people who want sitcoms like this, sitcoms in this format.
I'm really looking forward to Netflix's new show, The Missing 1977 Topps Baseball Cards in Tom's Collection documentary series.
That's a true crime documentary series, right?
Okay, yeah. You don't even realize how much all of a sudden I really want to see this, whatever it is.
All right, while we await the release of that, let's get on to our primary target. I feel like this story gives a hint about where we're going in the new world after cable dies. It's going to take cable, as we've said before, several years, maybe even a decade to just finally die. And everybody's like, oh, so I'll have to spend the $1,000 every month to get all the shows. I don't know. Here's what we got that's news, and then I'll tell you where my theory is, Brian. Protocol sources say that Google plans to add free TV channels to Google TV. Google TV, of course, being the interface on top of Android TV that Google puts on its own devices, particularly Chromecast. Protocol says Google's in talks with several free ad-supported streaming television channels. This is similar to what you see on Samsung and LG TVs. Vizio and Amazon do this as well. And probably cord cutters out there in our audience are more familiar with it as something from Zumo or Pluto or Roku, or even Peacock has its own version of this. The industry calls these kinds of services free ad-supported streaming television. So the first sign that something has become a trend is it gets a nice acronym. So you can call it FAST channels because you don't have to subscribe and they give you ads. You don't pay. They're the ones that show up like a cable TV grid with hundreds of free streaming channels. For Google TV, the free channels would reportedly appear in a dedicated live TV menu. They would show up alongside over-the-air programming on smart TVs. And Google might get its deals in place for all this stuff by autumn, which is, tomorrow. So we'll see. Maybe sometime during the autumn. But even if they do, they may wait to launch the feature with smart TV partners in 2022. So you might not see it until next year. Content makers have been experimenting with multiple fast channels that show up on multiple services For instance, AMC Networks, even though it has AMC Plus that you pay for, has a Walking Dead channel. It has a Portlandia channel. Smaller outfits like Rotten Tomatoes, which my wife works for, she runs a channel for them that shows up on Roku and Samsung and Peacock. So this seems, Brian, like it is the way to satisfy people who are like, man, I just want to turn on TV. I'm not picky about it. I don't want to have to pay for all the services. I just want to have something where I can watch some television, and I don't want to pay for cable, and maybe I don't want to mess with an over-the-air antenna.
There's part of me that wants to decide that this is just for people who don't really care what they're watching, but it also is for people who do care what they're watching. For example, last week when I was in Las Vegas, I had I think we discussed it, the wonderful opportunity to actually watch Lower Decks with a Klingon. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, bring me to the thing. And suddenly we're there, and there were commercials, whatever. I didn't care. All I knew is that we were watching the thing and we were there in the place. All of that tells me that there are certain ecosystems, certain niches that just need to be filled. And whether they're filled with or without ads, doesn't matter. There's going to be discriminating audiences that insist on no ads versus having ads or what have you. Good question mark.
I feel like we forget, especially people even a little younger than us forget, that in cable's earliest days, in the late 70s and 80s, it was you had over-the-air broadcast TV that you watched, and then if you wanted extra programming or you just couldn't miss those shows on the USA Network, you got cable. And it was not everybody getting cable. It took a long time before cable just replaced over-the-air broadcasting for people. That happened in the 90s. And I feel like this is taking us back to that kind of approach to television, which is everybody can get a free service. Might be Pluto, might be Zumo, might be Google, might be Roku. A lot of them have the same channels, though. And they're all free. They're all free and ad supported. And so everybody has TV, and you can watch The Walking Dead without having to pay for it. You won't get it right away. You also may not even get it on demand. You might have to wait and, wade through and see what time the next episode that you didn't know about to watch is on there. But you have the option of like, well, if I don't want to wait, I can buy it, or I can buy a service that has it and choose it on demand. These are that option of like, I just want to have one tier of television. And then I think most people, this is where my head's going, Brian. I think most people will probably get used to one of these and one or two of the paid services because they'll really want to watch a show on HBO Max or a show on Netflix, et cetera.
I think you're 100% right. And most importantly, you're right in the part where you will self-sort as to what you're willing to tolerate. You might be somebody who wants to know the zombie show that everybody's watching, or somebody who wants to, be up to date on those shows. But you're not necessarily the same in both categories. I think that's fine. Question mark.
Yeah, because back in the day, I remember being the person who was like, oh yeah, I don't watch that show. I don't have cable, or I don't have HBO, or my cable system doesn't get sci-fi, right? And I think now it's better because you're like, it's not that you couldn't, it's that you like, oh, I'm waiting for it to come to the Walking Dead channel. I'm waiting for it to come to the House of Cards channel. I mean, Netflix and Hulu have done these kinds of channels on free services. They come and go. They decide whether it works for them. That kind of thing can be used as a promotion to kind of get people to pay for the service, and for people who don't want to pay for the service as a way to keep consuming it. So I like the fact that these seem to be getting momentum. They seem to be getting more popular, and more companies are investing in them, because to me, that tells me that these are working and people are using them.
There's also like a savviness, like a self sorting savviness, where it's like, yes, I do want to see it. No, I don't care whether I see it this week or 3 weeks from now. Yes, I do care about whether or not I have to put up with ads or don't have to put up with ads. And all of that organically susses itself out as you find your way. I don't know. I think I love this. And this is not a thing I thought I would say, Tom.
I have been a fan of Pluto, particularly since it launched a long time ago, a very long time ago. I think I might have still been at CNET when it launched. And I always felt like it was just something I liked and would never really catch on, because, you know, why would you watch ads and get things when they're not on demand, when you could easily just, you know, go buy the service that has it? But I think it's because of subscription fatigue that people will do this. And I wouldn't be shocked if we start to see down the road, maybe in a couple of years, consolidation where, you know, for instance, Pluto is owned by Viacom CBS. There's a service where you can combine Pluto, Paramount Plus, and Showtime together, where you can combine Zumo, Peacock, and such together, so that they're selling you the whole package. I mean, it would be super smart for Pluto, even though it's owned by Viacom CBS, to say like, yeah, we'll let you add on Netflix, and it'll all be accessible from the same interface.
And there has already definitely been moments where it's like, there was something I wanted to show one of my kids, and so I go to justwatch.tv, and then it finds it. It's like, oh, you already have it. It's on Amazon streaming, and you click and you go, and then an ad shows up, and you're sort of faced with this sort of soft decision, like, do I want to spend money or just sit through this ad? And turns out more often than not, I just sit through the ad, and I'm surprised by that.
Well, because in the time it'll take you, to me, it's less about the money and more about like, you know, in the time it's going to take me to pull out my credit card and figure out where to pay for it, that ad will be done.
Yeah, right.
Then I can just watch it. Yeah. Well, folks, let us know what you think at cordkillers@gmail.com. In the meantime, we appreciate that you make it possible for us to sit here and accurately predict the future, Brian.
Yeah, which is why we never, ever, ever, ever stop our show to give you an ad. Now, having said that, let me stop the show and give you an ad. This stuff doesn't write itself for free. Go to patreon.com/cordkillers. Give us $1 an episode. You'll get your very own super awesome RSS feed. You'll get the pre-show, the post-show, the after talk, all in one feed. You're going to love it. It's going to be amazing. We'll think more of you, and that's really all that matters.
That's the beauty of this kind of break, is that if you're not a patron, I guess it's an ad, but you can quickly make it not be an ad. And if you are a patron, you know this already, it becomes a congratulations. It becomes a pat on the back. It becomes a little good job.
Attaboy.
Thanks for helping us out. Attaboy. Yeah. Patreon.com/cordkillers. Let's talk about how to watch. We talked about the new Amazon Fire TV stuff. Now it's time for Roku to roll out their holiday device updates. New 4K streaming sticks, and updates to Roku OS 10.5, update to the Roku mobile app, and a couple other things. Let's start with the mobile app. Roku mobile app adds a home tab and a save list to make it easier for you to keep track of what you're watching. You also get access to things like night mode settings or speech clarity for the Roku devices on your account. You won't have to go into those devices settings. You can do it from the mobile app. They're also adding a troubleshooting thing for a common problem with wireless earbuds where you're out of sync. You get a little audio delay. With a Roku attached to a TV, you can use the Roku mobile app to do automatic troubleshooting. And if that doesn't solve the problem, you can point your phone at the screen to see the delay, and that will give the app a better chance to be able to fix it. That's kind of nifty if it works, right?
I mean, yes. big old I word. You just
That big eye
slid in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Roku OS 10.5 is adding support for 3.1 and 5.1 Roku speaker configurations. Streambar users can set the streamer to be a center channel, and then other Roku speakers can be the other 2 or 4 channels. Voice Assistant now has a tutorial mode for new users, and you can now use your voice for passwords, pins, and other login things. Instead of trying to click around on that screen, you can just say it. It's stored locally. It doesn't get sent into the cloud except as your password would if you typed it in. Music and podcasts are now accessible from voice search. More apps are getting deep search options from voice, like you can say search for comedies within Netflix or look for podcasts in Spotify. Finally, Roku's live TV grid, which now has more than 200 channels, can be pinned to the home screen. Roku OS 10.5 will start rolling out to devices in the coming weeks. Anything on that before I tell you about the hardware?
Yeah, before we talk about the hardware, I am increasingly convinced that Roku is going to become 100% virtual. It's going to become a virtual space that you think of, whether it's a physical, it used to be a physical box, then it was a thing built into a TV, used to be an easy way to access a bunch of things that you wanted. As it gets more and more ghostly, would that be a good way to put it? What are Roku's remaining moves at this point?
Yeah, I feel like they want you to not think of Roku as a box or as a TV, but as the way things work.
As a
right?
place.
Yeah, I go to Roku to watch my television, and
Right.
I use it on my phone. I use it on my television. Maybe I even have a streaming stick plugged in or a box or something like that. But Roku is my television place. I think you're absolutely right. That's what they want you to think.
So
But
you did a really, really good job of agreeing that Roku has a bit of a problem.
well, what do you think that problem is? Because
Because
I think their escape clause to that problem, I mean, they are continuing to expand hardware, not just on their own devices that they make.
yeah.
And they continue to rake in the advertising dollars. And so the upside for them is more advertising dollars. And that comes from the Roku app having the free streaming, the fast Roku's own fast channels, which they are now making easier to access by letting you pin to your home screen.
So let me pitch this to you, and I don't work for Roku. I know nothing, but
Me too.
ultimately, what Roku represents to me as a consumer is the shortest path to get to the thing, whatever the thing is, right? They make it easy. You turn on your box and suddenly the shortest path is via Roku. How do you preserve that? Once
I mean, I think you have to get people in the ecosystem by buying the devices that use Roku, and then you teach them to use it to the point where they're like, yeah, I don't want to switch to Apple TV or Fire TV. I know how Roku works, and they seem to be doing most of those things, aren't they?
Yeah, but
What's your butt?
well, my here's my butt is so did Spectrum, so did Time Warner, so did all these other places. They all trained my parents and those who came before me. Did Roku miss the bus is what I'm asking.
But which bus did they miss? Because all of those companies you just mentioned are regionally locked monopolies. I can't get Comcast, even if Comcast is better. I can't. I can only get Spectrum because that's the region I live in. Whereas I can get Roku, I can get Apple, I can get Fire TV. So I don't think it's the same challenges there. And if there's a bus they're missing, I'm not sure what it is.
Well, let me ask this. Let's say right now there was just whatever a box. Would you go out of your way to make sure that Roku was added into the flow between you and the shows that you wanted to watch.
But that's not how it works. What happens is somebody's like, I want to watch TV on the internet. So what do I do? Well, for a lot of people, they just buy a television, and a lot of those televisions have Roku on them, right? So at that point, they didn't have to think about it. They just got a TCL TV that has Roku built into it. Done. Game over. Roku just got them.
Right.
Now, there are other people still wanting to like, no, I want to pick a device. That's where Apple has missed the bus. They're not in televisions, whereas Amazon and Roku are. So in that case, I feel like they're on a bus that Apple is not on.
This will be my last stab, and if I don't land this, that's fine. Compared to Just Watch or something like that, like I know Just Watch will always find me the thing I want and a way to get to it. I don't know that about Roku, and I know that Just Watch will work on whatever device I'm looking at. Am I crazy in believing that maybe Roku hasn't established that mental foothold?
But when you use Just Watch, you have to have Roku or Apple or Fire to be able to watch it. Just Watch isn't the same thing. It's just a directory. And Roku has all of that functionality, as does Apple and Amazon now, where they can say like, look, you won't even have to use another thing. Just search for it here and we'll tell you like, yeah, get this channel from our app store or launch this channel that you already have to watch it. In that respect, they're ahead for most people. I think you and I know like, yeah, but there's things in Just Watch that Roku maybe isn't the best at finding, but most people won't even be able to tell the difference, I don't think.
100%. I guess what I'm just expressing is, oh boy, does it look like that window is closing around Roku, and I don't see what moves they have. That's pretty much it.
I don't see it that way. I feel like Roku's in a really good position. In fact, in many ways ahead of Apple. And what would crush them would be Amazon just being a 100-pound gorilla and shoving them out of the way by striking deals and keeping them off TVs. But otherwise, I feel like they're in very good position from where I'm looking anyway. Hardware wise, though, we didn't get to the hardware yet. Walmart exclusive Roku Ultra LT is adding Dolby Vision and upgrading the chip for faster boost time and faster Wi-Fi in the upcoming models. Those will be available in the coming weeks for about $80, which is 10 more than the old model. So if you see the old model and you want to save some money and you don't care about faster boot time and faster Wi-Fi, you can snap those up. Roku also teased a $180 soundbar coming from TCL. So in the future, you'll be able to buy a TCL soundbar that'll have Roku built in, everything in one thing. And then, of course, the streaming sticks. The Streaming Stick 4K and the Streaming Stick 4K Plus will replace the Roku Express 4K Plus and Streaming Stick Plus. These new 4K streaming sticks are 30% faster at booting, double the potential Wi-Fi speed. They support HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision. And the Streaming Stick Plus, if you're like, okay, Streaming Stick 4K and Plus, what's the Plus? The Plus comes with a fancier version of the Roku Voice Remote Pro. The one in the Plus is rechargeable, so you don't have to swap batteries out, and it has a little siren on it. So if you lose it, you can press a button on the app and it'll make the siren sound and you can find the remote. Streaming Stick 4K is $50 and the Streaming Stick 4K Plus is $70 for order now, shipping October 14th for the 4K and 17th for the 4K Plus.
All of those are good, but I still feel like Roku should be prepared to go completely virtual. I'm
but
bothered.
They are. I mean, I think it would be way too early for them to stop selling hardware. You're not going to increase your footprint by selling hardware, but they are the thing. They're a mobile device. You don't even have to own a Roku to watch the Roku channels and use the Roku app and look up stuff.
You are correct. However, okay. I don't know that I want to be Roku right now. I think Roku has an increasingly tight squeeze happening for them.
Yeah, in lots of ways. That's true. Let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location.
Under Surveillance.
Just a few things here. CBS had planned a 5-episode reality competition series called The Activist. They announced it back in March. It was originally set to premiere October 22nd. 6 activists across health, education, and environmental causes, so 2 in each, would compete in challenges to raise awareness for their cause. At the end of the series, 1 activist in each area, so half the activists, would be chosen to go to the G20 summit in Rome at the end of October to advocate for their cause. However, CBS last week announced that the hosts and therefore judges would be Usher, Julianne Hough, and Priyanka Chopra Jonas. And that caused a social media backlash. Why do these people get to judge? Why is this celebrity oriented? It's minimizing the activism. And that drove CBS to change the show. It will no longer be a competition show. It will no longer be 5 episodes. It will be a single primetime documentary special on the activists involved, removing the competition and the judging aspects.
I have complicated feelings about this. Bryce, philosophically speaking, what is more important, that you have voices speak truth to power, or that you have respectable voices speak truth to power?
Well, that's a very big question. I don't know. I think this feels right. I feel like making a game show out of who is, the best or the most worthy activist just doesn't. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's immoral, but it does feel gross. It does feel like Hunger Games-y a little. Compete, or your charity won't get helped.
Gross is such a good
children
word
to have better health?
No,
Compete?
but I really like the word gross, because it doesn't convey a morality of positive or negative. It just conveys a distaste for the whole affair.
There's a problem on both ends of this. One is, if you're going to do an activist competition show, ... No, you're not. I mean, there was your problem. Activists don't want to watch a competition show about activism. That was the big assumption. And at the other end, CBS realized that. They're like, well, crap. Yes, maybe we shouldn't always bow to the loudest voices on social media, for all of our shows. But in this case, we absolutely should, because we wanted those people to watch. Those are absolutely the people we thought would watch this, and they're telling us they hate it. So I think CBS made the only choice they could, which was to cancel this. And then, they decided to turn it into something that wouldn't waste all the money by filling a hole in the schedule. But honestly, most people are not going to watch this because they're going to be so turned off by the idea. I like the way they went about it. They were like, it's not really a competition. Half the people are going to go to the G20. Everybody's going to get to raise awareness for their cause during the course of this 5-episode series. So in the TV executive's mind, they're like, what are we doing wrong? We're highlighting causes. We're highlighting experienced activists. We didn't pick nobodies. And we're actually sending most of the people, or at least half of the people, to the G20. Like, all we're doing is helping activism. But it's because you didn't pay attention to that first sentence of, if you were to do a reality show competition about activism, nobody got past that. It doesn't matter how you did it. Nobody got past that first sentence.
Yeah.
So, Tom, should this exist or not?
I think if you were to ever try to make this work, you have to work really hard to show that it's not a reality show competition series. You have to disavow from the beginning. This is not a reality show. This is not a competition.
This is not a game.
This is not a game. We are highlighting activists, and everybody wins in our activists. Some will win more than others by going to the G20 at the end, but don't pay attention to that. Like, I don't know if even that would work, but you would have to steer against the narrative from the very beginning, because I think there might be something to the idea of a 5-episode series showing activists cooperating, learning from each other. You maybe not on CBS, but I think on maybe a more niche network, you could get an audience for that. It just, you can't make it a competition.
You know why this doesn't work is because it started off as a competition show.
Yep.
Right? Like, nobody cares about, when celebrities are on Wheel of Fortune and they're all playing for their own specific charity, because that was already a game that people knew. And the money, hey, one of them's going to get the money and we're playing the game. We all like playing the game. Where this would have been better if it was worse, almost, right? Like, it would have felt better if this was like an episode of Match Game with 6 philanthropists.
I think you've got something there. You have Usher, Julianne Hough, and Priyanka Chopra Jonas being taught about the causes, not judging, not hosting. You have those three being brought into the causes. Like,
so it's like one half Shark Tank, and then they get won over to various causes, and then they compete on behalf of the causes that they finally fell in love with.
Right? Then it feels okay, right? Then it would be better if they were having to do American Gladiator. Like, then at least it's not like, which charity is the best charity? Like, no, just make them fight or something. Come on. Make them fight first.
Actually, I'm 100% on board with this.
Right?
This sounds amazing.
I think we fixed it. CBS, give us a call, cordkillers@gmail.com to get in touch. HBO released a trailer for season 3 of Succession. It has revealed now that there will be guest appearances from Alexander Skarsgård, Hope Davis, and Adrian Brody.
Sorry, that last name?
Adrian Brody.
One more time.
It'll be Alexander Skarsgård, Hope Davis, and Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody?
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody.
Yes, Succession got Brodied. Season 3 of Succession premieres October 17th. I think it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. That show's going to be awesome. That show's great.
Jean Smart won an Emmy for her acting in the HBO Max series Hacks, and while speaking to the press, mentioned some details about season 2 of Hacks. Smart said her character will be going out on the road, which we kind of knew if you'd watched it, that it'll be based in LA. It was based in Vegas in the original season. And we will be exploring more about her relationship with her sister, which you probably could have guessed, but there you go. Smart nailing down some of the things to expect in season 2 of Hacks.
They did a pretty good job of going a full season without spelling out exactly what the beef is with her and her sister. Like there's very clearly a big fat situation to resolve, and you can sketch around the edges, but my goodness, Hacks really blew me away. It really blew me away, and it confused me, and it made me ask questions about myself. I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah, I thought it was a very well done, almost felt like a writing exercise that they nailed, and it was so good they had to make a TV show out of it. It was that well done. A few other notes here. Peacock renewed late night series The Amber Ruffin Show for a second season. That'll begin October 8th. Anthony Mackie has been cast as the leading man John Doe in Sony's live action Twisted Metal series. And HBO Max ran a sizzle reel for upcoming shows during the Emmys, showing scenes from the Sex and the City sequel and Just Like That, Suicide Squad spinoff Peacemaker, and Mindy Kaling's The Sex Lives of College Girls. Peacemaker, probably the one most people are familiar with in our audience here. And we only saw a couple scenes, but it looked pretty good.
Yeah. I unfortunately am only equipped to speak about Hacks.
Sex and the
If we
City,
can go
right.
back to Hacks, that'd be great.
No, I know you're a big Sex and the City. Oh, you said Hacks?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. Not Hacks, though. This week, Brian and I both have been watching Why the Last Man. We are not doing a spoiler in time on it at this juncture because we kind of wanted to sample it. There have been 4 episodes out as of yesterday. The 4th came out yesterday. Brian, how many have you watched, and what do you think of the ones you've seen so far?
I've only watched the first 2 episodes, and I feel like you have full permission to talk about the next 2 episodes. I did read the entire comic book run series. I'm very familiar with the themes that they play with. I like it a lot. I'm very surprised. I wondered whether or not 10 years after I read the comic books, whether or not many of those themes would be relevant. And I really, really enjoy how much topspin there has been on so many of those themes. Similar themes, similar stories, similar everything, but ooh, it feels just a little bit different in the 2020s versus the 2010s.
Yeah, there's 2 things going on. First of all, I watched the first 3 all in a day. I was enjoying them that much that I just could not stop. In fact, I started the last one thinking like, well, I'll probably I started the first one thinking, I'll see how far I get into this, and I'll watch it over the next couple of days. I went right through the first 2 episodes and then had to go do something and ran back to watch the 3rd one thinking like, well, that's kind of late. I may not make it all the way through. Kept me up, which for me, I fall asleep drop of a hat. Usually 10 o'clock hits and I'm just out, and it kept me up because I was like, okay, I have to see how this turns out. The 4th episode did not feel as gripping as those first 3, and I wonder if it was because of the break, if I lost the momentum, or if we're just in that part of the story where it's like, okay, we got to get them through the wilderness, and then the events will start hitting the ground running. Because I found 2 things to be true that appealed to me about those first 3 episodes, particularly. One being the pace. This is incredibly well paced for me. I never felt like they were lingering too long. We were always moving on to a new thing, but I wasn't confused. It wasn't moving too fast. And I was caught up in the decline of society. I was the pacing was a little slow at the very beginning when we're setting up all the characters. But even then I felt like it was good. And once they gave you enough hints that what is coming was coming to kind of whet your appetite of like, oh, what's that? Why is that rat doing that? Okay, look at, oh, the poor dog. Okay, but how long? So they kept me in suspense. And then the other thing is what you were alluding to, which is they did a great job of saying, going to tell the same story, but we can't tell it the same way because it's 2021. So what do we change and what don't we change? And of course, the inevitable, we're telling it on a small screen television versus in a graphic novel. What are the other things we have to change for that? And so far, I don't think I can quibble with any of the choices they made to adapt this to 2021.
Well, and one of the things that makes me strangely quite happy is that in the original comic book, it was like, what would the world be without men? Am I right? And it's like, you could tell that the people writing this version of it were like, that is a dumb question, and we should not ask that. Instead, we're going to ask, how many things are obviously fixed for a world run without men going forward. Yeah. In a world where, like right now I'm listening to some Radiolab episode where they're talking about whether or not somebody is technically female or technically male competing in the Olympics because if they have XXX versus XYY or all the weird interesting intersex chromosomal combinations and stuff. I like that all of that is showing up just instantly right at the beginning of this. It's quite good and quite astute, and I like it quite a bit.
and it's showing up in service of the story, not trying to be the story.
Correct.
Which I don't mean to say to minimize it. I mean to say you're going to get a lot more people thinking about it because they're into the story and it's part of it than you would if you're like, and we've changed the story to be about this. When people are like, yeah, okay, fine, I'm out. That's not my kind of story. I think that is incredible. Also in 2002 or whatever, when the graphic novel was first conceived, there were fewer women in responsible positions than there are now. And so society falling apart is a different kind of falling apart.
Right.
You get the conversation in these first couple episodes. I can't remember which one of, well, it's not that we can't do it. It's that all of those positions were taken up by men. And now we see how bad of an idea that was because we have to scramble to find the women that can fill them.
Well, and to put it in perspective for anybody who's too young at the time, like there was a time where to say, what if women were warriors? Whoa, did I just blow your mind? What if women were presidents and leaders? Whoa, is your mind blown? And it's like, I love the way they just run roughshod right over all of that stuff in this version of it.
That is Why the Last Man, available on FX and FX on Hulu, which means it's available on FX and Hulu. All right, Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, we got a recommendation from our friend Torrent Fiend, who writes, hello again. Have you guys seen anything about that new Chris Pratt movie, The Tomorrow War, on Amazon Prime? It was released in July, and I thought it was really good. Chris Pratt plays an ex-military soldier, and a future war with aliens happens, and there's this crazy draft where they send people from the past to today to draft people 30 years into the future. I thought Chris Pratt was awesome in this movie. He's really believable as a tough ex-military badass who's also a good guy. This kind of checks all the boxes because there's a strong, heartfelt story with him and his daughter. It's a great monster movie because of the vicious aliens, and it's a great sci-fi story because of the alien invasion and time travel elements. If people want something to compare this to, we could think of this as an updated Independence Day or as like a summer blockbuster. The only negative thing I could say about it is that it starts off a little slow, but once things get going, the action does not let up, and it's an action-packed thrill ride. The alien monsters are vicious and scary as well, so this might not be for the little ones. Torrent Fiend. Thank you, Torrent Fiend. I have not seen this, but Tom and Brian, you both have seen The Tomorrow War. Is that correct?
Yeah, Torrent Fiend, if you missed the July 12th episode, that's when we talked about seeing it. Brian had it as his eyes on pick. And I don't know, Brian, I don't remember whether you liked it or not. I remember my reaction was like, oh, it was the perfect July 4th movie. It drowned out the fireworks for our dogs. And even though I fell asleep partway through, I really enjoyed it anyway, because when I woke up, I wasn't lost, and yet I was still having a good time watching it. It was a fun ride. My
experience was almost entirely driven by the fact that it was a total surprise, that I had no idea what to expect, and the most delightful, rarest, and wonderful of all television or movie experiences is a genuine surprise. And if you go into it not knowing anything, you really do get that. And I really did enjoy it. It reminded me of, the silver age of science fiction stories, 1970s style epics and all that. I liked it quite a bit. I, after the fact, read reviews that found it hacky or, everybody's got a beef, whatever. But I know for me, I had a real special time with it.
Nice. That is The Tomorrow War. That's on Amazon Prime Video. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, email it to us, please. Cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
Folks, I give things away for free. Sometimes they're audiobooks. I pretty much 3 weeks ago gave away my audiobook project Vera to anybody who subscribed to my newsletter that asked for it. I told them it was a giveaway and I had a limited number of copies, but frankly, within those first 3 days, if anybody said, yeah, I want one, I gave it to them. So I'm not saying that'll happen again, but I will do other things like that. If you subscribe to my newsletter, freetomnewsletter.com is the place to get it. I keep you updated on all the shows that I do, all the books that I'm writing, all the things going on. So if that sounds of interest to you, once again, freetomnewsletter.com.
Heck yes. And of course, if you want to support the show, doghousesystems.com/rogue. They showed up out of nowhere. They said, would you like to provide all of the hardware to fuel all of this amazing content you're doing? And we said, go on. And they're like, that's the whole pitch. Just make sure you mention the doghousesystems.com/rogue. Promo code rogue is where you go to get top quality, top tier, high end service for the best in breed when it comes to your gaming PCs.
Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
We've mentioned the Emmys a few times so far during this episode. The Emmys were once again dominated by streaming services. And honestly, the reason it's down here in the front lines is that that's not news, and it's over. Streaming rules television. Netflix won 44 Emmys, tying the record for most wins by a single platform or network in a single year. That record was set by CBS in 1974. The Netflix haul included 11 wins for The Crown, which also won Best Drama. And that's the first time Netflix has taken a win for a major scripted series. HBO and HBO Max took home 19 Emmys, including Best Writing and Directing for Hacks. Apple TV Plus got 10 Emmys. 7 of those were for Ted Lasso. Disney Plus took home 14. The WandaVision and The Mandalorian were shut out of any primetime wins. They did get some Creative Arts Emmys, though. One of the Disney Plus primetime wins, though, was for Hamilton. Amazon and Hulu did not win any Emmys this year. They have won them in the past, just none this year. And in fact, Handmaid's Tale from Hulu set a record for the most losses in a single year because it had been nominated for so many categories and didn't win any of them.
All right, you don't have to rub it in their
I
faces.
know,
As of September 15th, HBO is no longer available as an add-on channel to Amazon Prime. Part of the agreement between Amazon and Warner Media that brought HBO Max to Fire TVs, HBO is expected to lose 5 million subscribers as part of the move. However, Warner Media is offering HBO Max for $7.49 per month for 6 months to new or former Amazon subscribers. Until September 26th, HBO Max is available for $10 a month with ads or $15 a month without.
Hope it was worth it for you, HBO Max, to lose 5 million subscribers. But hey, in the meantime, if you've been waiting to jump on the HBO Max train for it to get cheaper, well, it's temporarily cheaper. So you might want to do that because you don't have to have been a former Amazon Prime HBO subscriber to get the $7.49 deal. That's available to any new subscriber or former Amazon Prime subscribers. Locast had already voluntarily shut down its local TV streaming service in the U.S. We told you about that last time. But September 15th, a federal judge issued a permanent injunction that will keep it down. It's not like they were probably going to go back up, but now it would actually be illegal for them to do so. Locast would have to appeal and win in court in order to start operations again. So it kind of looks like that's over. However, if you want some local programming, there are options. Sinclair Broadcast Group, for instance, has operated Stir with 2 R's for its local offerings for a couple of years. It's kind of a fast service, got a grid and has some of your local channels. And now Hearst Television is launching a news-oriented service called Very Local for its 26 U.S. markets. Very Local is available on Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV, and coming soon to iOS and Android.
I stand behind my being just real bummed out, and I don't have an answer to any of this, but I'm still feeling real bummed about this, Tom. Am I alone?
The Locast thing?
Yeah, they did everything right. They obeyed all the rules. They played by the game, and then they still got hosed.
I feel like they should appeal, but I think they may be out of support and momentum at this point. You know, their allies may have said, sorry, Locast, you're up against the 4 major broadcasting networks. Best of luck to you.
And
sorry
also,
it didn't work out.
like There ain't no money for the level of reach they're trying to get. Anyway, Quibi sold most of its content to Roku, but its technology, particularly the turnstile feature that adapted shows to landscape or portrait mode, was the subject for a lawsuit from a company called Eco. To settle the suit, Quibi was handing over its tech to Eco, so Quibi will not get a big paycheck for selling off the tech assets. The whole idea. Tom, you want to give me $1 billion? Look, a phone. It's like this, and it's like this. It's like this. It's like this.
Yeah, but there was some interesting technology in how it preserved the center view.
Super. Yes.
I mean, it's easy to make fun because you didn't write it, but there was something valuable to that, and I think they could have sold it to somebody, but they won't now. And so, to me, if you want some Schadenfreude, it's not making fun of Turnstile. It's looking at Quibi and going, man, you couldn't even profit off the spare parts. Like, I guess you did profit.
Or I would say you couldn't even profit off of the one genuinely novel aspect of your business. Like
you had a patent for that, and now you don't. And maybe they got some money out of this from Echo as part of the settlement, but I'm guessing not.
Ugh.
Yeah. A couple other things here. The Movies Anywhere app is now available on the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X, and the Xbox Series S. The Xbox version of the app supports Watch Together and Screen Pass. So you can do all the Movies Anywhere stuff that you can do on other platforms on the Xbox.
YouTube TV has added 3 Spanish language channels to its basic service at no extra cost. The 3 channels are Univision, Unimas, and Galavision at $6 a month. The add-on of movies from, I shouldn't have picked this one. Pentea are coming in the next few months as is a bundle of Spanish language cable channels. So
3 channels coming to YouTube TV for free, and then a $6 a month Pantaya, and then a bundle.
Nailed
right?
it. Yes.
Yeah, you got it. All right, let's move on to the dispatches from the front. Michael from Texas has a note for you, Brian.
Yep.
He says, "Dear Brian, you've complained about trailers giving you, quote, the whole story and giving it all away. Now you're complaining about Red Notice's trailer only giving you ingredients and you, quote, need to be given 2 unexpected words to hook you.
Yep.
Just watch or not and let the story, if one actually exists, unfold or lay there flat like a boring piece of paper in whatever way it does. Then complain later," says Michael from Texas, to which I say, don't tell Brian what to do.
No. Do tell me what to do, because to be honest, Michael is 100% correct. I think what I'm doing is, please don't mistake what I'm saying I'm not making diktats. What I'm doing is I'm expressing what I desperately want as a consumer. And it is possible to do. Tell me a story that is similar in the manner of a fractal from 1,000 feet is similar to up close. But tell it in such a way that I buy in, and then I'm only more amazed when I see the whole truth of how everything is. And yes, that's it's an unfair way for me to ask for people to do things, but whatever.
It would be, I think it's all in the asking. It would be unfair for you to demand or say somebody's awful because they didn't give that to you. I think it's entirely fair for you to say, you know what's going to make me watch your thing? If you do that.
Yes. You know what? That's a good point. I'm just describing my favorite mozzarella sticks. That's all I'm doing.
Exactly. Tim Jar says, what the hell was Brian talking about with the people in offices who love puzzle boxes thing every time the new Matrix movie was mentioned? It was clear there was a reference to something, but I'm totally in the dark as to what.
Tim Jar. Man, oh man. If only legally I could directly and flatly tell you the things I'm hoping to see in the new Matrix movie. End of sentence. Did you know that sometimes people license objects and they put them in movies, and sometimes they have to...
Darren Kitchen did that with the rubber ducky showing up in
that's
Mr.
right.
Robot.
Yeah. The rubber ducky just showed up multiple times, Mr. Robot and all that stuff. In that totally unrelated story, I'll bet he was really excited to watch Mr. Robot to see whether or not his particular brand of rubber ducky was the one that was featured in a plot line.
I mean, he might have been stopping during Mr. Robot trailers and saying, gosh, I hope people in IT departments who love hacking items, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, that's an unrelated story, but you're right.
Totally.
Tim, I probably shouldn't constantly talk about how every time the only thing I care about in the Matrix movie is whether or not there's a lot of puzzle boxes in an office.
Maybe you're just into tchotchkes, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Bai Shen wrote in and said, while I understand the reasons for the window, the theatrical release window, and I'm sympathetic to the theater's day and date, is the superior solution. The window is only cheaper if you go to the movies alone and don't buy concessions. At best, you'll break even if you bring someone or get concessions. I'm sorry, at best, you'll break even if you bring someone and get concessions. Day and date allows the disabled and families to participate in the cultural conversation more easily. I agree that the spectacle of the theater is awesome, but it's often ruined by rude people or people who bring their uninterested children to the movie with the adults who wanted to see it. Since theaters don't seem interested in dealing with those behaviors, I'll continue watching at home. The main reason I watch the big movies when they come out is to avoid getting spoiled. Due to vaccine hesitancy, etc., I don't feel theaters are currently safe. I would have gladly paid the $30 for Shang-Chi, but now instead I'll wait for the window to end and watch it for free. What I'd love to see is the theater become more of an event. Less screens, better quality, ushers dealing with disruptions, etc. However, I don't see that happening with the current studio money grab of taking all of the ticket revenue and leaving the theaters to subsist on concessions alone.
Dude, couldn't agree more. Like, there's nothing worse than paying money to go to a movie. And you're there at the movie theater and there's kids talking and they're running around. Doors are opening. And I just realized I'm describing my home experience.
Describing how you watch it.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. I do think Baishen has a great suggestion of, you know what? Instead of the false rarity of the exclusive theatrical release, you know, what if you just were able to make the theater a better option? And theaters have been trying to do that to some extent, but long term, I think that is what's going to happen. You're going to have fewer theaters, you're going to have fewer screens, they're going to be higher quality. The thing is, they also might be much more expensive and therefore still out of reach for a lot of people.
Yep.
Finally, David Pick in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin says, briefly, nothing Brian said on wanting to see new releases in a theater instead of at home was wrong. He was also right that employees at a theater make a huge difference in your experience, and a number of factors besides pay can make that a good or a bad experience. I have used home VOD several times now, and much like Brian, I have yet to upgrade to a 4K TV. Most times, I'm okay with the compromise, but watching The Green Knight, I had wished I really had a 4K television, as there were visuals I know I was missing at 1080p. And the streaming experience on Amazon was for some reason very disappointing at times and very pixelated with my Chromecast. A wired connection probably would have been better. Yes, probably. But most times it was as good as my wired Roku 3. The discussion of comparing Lowcast to Aereo I appreciated because honestly, looking from the outside, they seemed like the same thing. That's why I couldn't see Lowcast winning any lawsuits. Supposedly, if ATSC 3.0 is ever widely adopted, at minimum, it will bring 4K broadcast, but also bring the functionality Lowcast gave people back when stations transition. However, it's been pointed out there is no FCC mandate to transition for stations like there was for ATSC 1.0 back in 2009. So the loss of Lowcast will sting, most likely for a long time to come. Thank you, David Pick. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/nightattack, also carried on diamondclub.tv, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Say goodbye, Brian.
Goodbye, Brian. Hey, Tom Merritt, what's going on?
I'm just hanging out here watching this scroll go by. What are you doing?
Trying to set up a bit where we thank our beautiful, beautiful patrons, all these wonderful
I'm sorry,
names.
I'm too distracted looking at these beautiful, beautiful patron names going by. Look at that one. I mean, if you wanted to be one of these people, patreon.com/Cordkillers would be the place to go.
I mean, they're scratching our itch, like, because we're
I think
addicted.
as long as it's consensual, like, fine.
we're addicted to their money.
And love. Might as well face it.
Well, God damn it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.